I can't stop them. What am I going to do, shoot them? The disc jockeys, we're trying to keep them from turning over. And I said, they're playing to be the wrong side. It's not going. It's going to kill the record. We've got a hit record. Excuse me. And suddenly, they know everything. So all the disc jockeys decided to turn over and play the other side. And we're going to lose the artist. We're going to lose the record. We're going to lose our career. Everything's going down the tube. He said, Rick, I'm sorry, I'll die. There's nothing more to do.
Wow.
He called me back a week later and said, man, forget it. This is the biggest record we've ever had. And when he said we were absolutely on the wrong side, Rick.
That's Funky Fever, huh?
No, it's
that's the other side.
It's Slip Away.
Funky Fever was the A side.
Funky Fever was the A side.
Oh shit!
And this quarter major single. And they all turned it over and went on Slip Away. Was me and Clarence, I believe, had it cut a year and a half before we shut down.
Oh yeah.
We put it aside, thought, well, this is good, but it's a good demo. We put it down in the studio, and his guitar and the whole thing. I never forget. Cogwell played the bass.
Yeah, I remember Cogwell playing.
Boom, boom, all on the upswing.
Yeah, he did. He did. He did.
All the
and he had a good sound on that bass.
Oh
yeah,
Cogwell's like playing, man. And even on Mustang Sally, he uses that up thing. That
yeah, he loved that little up.
Yeah,
he used to love to get
and
on
it was
that
up
up.
No.
Yeah.
Land of the Thousand
Dances, don't pick it.
He could really come up with. If you just let him alone, he could come up with some licks on that bass that you never ever would think of.
It was on Slip Away. He carried the record. Nearly him and you all it was on there, except a little old drum.
That's right. He sure did.
I love that guitar part, Clarence.
Oh, it wasn't just the part; it was the sound and the little funkiness and his little tremolo and all
that little tremolo thing. Oh, that's nice.
Well, see, I had already dreamed. I had dreamed of putting that lick.
This man had all that in his mind before he even come to the studio. And
I dreamed of that lick.
You mean
put
in
it
your
on the
sleep?
song. No.
In your sleep?
No. But what happened was, see, I always believed.
I woke up one night and said, I want to get my guitar. I think I've got a lick. I think I've got a lick. Go get my guitar.
Yeah. I always believed, though, that tremolo on that guitar was a hit sound. I was hooking its own right.
And
I was going to use it in whatever I recorded.
Didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
So we put it on Funky Fever.
Put it on everything, didn't you?
Yeah, put it on everything. And finally found a song it would work on. That sounds like me. I used to get these licks and I'd hear the people come in and cut them. In the world. Drop the
candle.
You ring? Yeah. And of course, back in those days, I mean, I really needed a hit. I mean, I needed something. Of course, I just got the line tubes. And I said, so every little band would come in. The song was nothing. The singer was nothing. But if there was a bass lick, or a guitar lick, or a drum lick that was unused, that was different. And a new approach that hadn't been used to that.
Yeah.
I made me a little piece of tape and put it up on. I had a composite of 7.5 speed tape that I'd put it on there. Well, every time I'd cut an act, well, I'd get that tape down and listen, see if that'll fit. Well, see if that'll fit this song. I mean, maybe we can turn it around and play it backwards.
Right.
You know where that tape is?
I wish I did, son. I wish I did.
I tell you what y'all did make for me though. A lot of the things that we used to say, like I remember one time I was cutting, and Candy was standing down there reading the words to me, and Rick had the tape running. I said, you better stop touching me right there. You're gonna make me tickle.
That was some classical.
And they made me a tape of all those little things that we used to say in the studio, and I still got it.
Well, I love to have it myself. I mean, there's some of the conversation, if I could hear it when Clarence. One of the things I remember when Clarence and Calvin, even before Clarence and I broke off from Calvin, they came to me as a duet, you know, and of course they'd had
Calvin, what was his last name?
Scott.
Calvin Scott.
And Calvin was round also, and ugly.
That's right.
I said it.
Yeah, he was ugly. Yeah,
He was ugly.
But he was ugly.
Yeah, that's how come I couldn't get along.
That's pretty
with
bad coming from
Clarence
Clarence,
said,
too.
That's
Clarence
right.
said, come I couldn't get along with him. Because he was too ugly. So anyhow, they came here one Sunday, and see, they'd had a hit or two that I just thought was the greatest record on a record out of Houston, Texas, with Don Roby. We meaning people like myself, thought this guy was a crook and that he might even be subject to hurt somebody. You know what I'm saying? That he might shoot somebody. No, I mean, he's one of those people.
Yeah.
The word in the industry was this man is a gangster.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure
You know,
was.
I'm telling you.
That's
So-
what I heard.
So when Clarence and them come to me, I thought about some of that. You know, I'm thinking, he may come here and shoot me. You know, or send somebody. At worst, send somebody.
Worse.
You know,
That you
walk
wouldn't
out the
even know who
studio
you were.
some night and just hid behind the door. But anyhow, they came up, him and Calvin, and they did these tunes, and they were so well rehearsed. And for some reason, neither one of them had any money. You know what I'm talking about? They couldn't pay a lot of studio time, so we got to get this done in an hour.
Yeah, we can't take much time.
And they
here.
wouldn't. I'm gonna tell you, you don't want having it worked out. I mean, every this little thing was there. The organ part, the guitar part, everything. They just walked in and did it. I mean, and 2 hours later, they had 5 sides or 6 sides. You know, and finished. Wasn't no overdubbing nothing. It's all live.
Just
you know?
do it.
And they were a duet. And what was the song I'm thinking about? It was such a
Rooster Knees and Rise, isn't it?
No,
Rooster,
no, it's long before this.
Step by Step.
What am I talking about? The hit y'all had with Don Roby.
Wait,
It wasn't huge, but it was, huh?
I'm trying to think of which one it was. Cause
It went big radio, and I think it even
Yeah,
went
they
pop.
had-
I think it went pop.
But he always told us that. I'm trying to think what it was because he always told us
Because it was a classic. It was almost like a Beatle record.
But he was always I remember that song. I remember the song.
Pop sound.
I know it. I remember. I think the Box Tops ended up cutting that song.
I think it did. I think they covered you.
Not the letter. The letter.
No,
No,
it
I
wasn't
can't think of the name of the song, but I know what you're talking about, though.
that. But it was so contagious. It sounded like a smash to me.
Yeah,
It
the
really
Box Tops ended up cutting that song.
did. Did they
Uh-huh.
covered you?
They covered us
Ticket
on
for
that.
an airplane.
No, it was.
That's the letter, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what.
I can't think of the name of it at the moment, but I remember when we did it. And Don Roby told us we ain't sold no records because he said
There was something about it that reminded me a little of the Doobie Brothers.
Right.
Oh, listen to the music. One of those kind of sounding
right.
things. You know,
I
anything.
just can't think of the name of the song, but I know what you're
Sing-along
talking about.
thing.
Yeah, it's really single, really contagious, and
Yeah.
it had tempo to it.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'd like to recut that and put it out, but I'm afraid Don will have me killed. Don Roby will have me killed. But anyhow,
Well, I
when
heard
they
that-
came up here, sorry, go ahead, Barry.
I know I was going to say, I heard the same thing about another fella that I worked with back in the 70s. His name was Johnny Baylor at Roulette.
Oh, I knew him.
Did you know Johnny?
Yeah, I knew of him. I didn't
Now
know him
he's-
real well, but we'd met. And
Now, he was a little rough. He came in and he set a
Oh,
gun
he had a
down on
bad
the
rep?
console when we were getting ready to cut Joe Simon. He said, "Now, boys, we're going to stay here till we get this right." And that was one of my first sessions at Muscle Shoals Sound, and I was a boy and scared to death. Now, here's a gun on the console, and I'm thinking, what kind of thing have I gotten myself into here, you know? I need to get on out of the way from
really, I
around
need to
here.
ease out of here.
Well,
But
Yeah.
Roulette,
Quietly, but quietly. I don't want to I don't want to make anybody mad when I
well, you
leave.
see, they had already told me the story about.
I don't want anybody to miss me.
They had already told me about the story about, I believe it was Junior Wells that had with Don Roby. And Junior decided that Don wasn't booking him no gigs, so he went out and booked some gigs. And he come off the stage one night, and when he get into his dressing room, these two big dudes, one get on one side and one on the other, and grab his arms and said, "What are you doing here tonight?" Well, I was just doing me a little gig. Well, Don Roby says you ain't supposed to be done. He sent us over here to bring you to his office. But I got another show I got to do. Well, you have to do that sometime later. So they took him over there to the office, and allegedly Don Roby took a fish and whipped the boy with it.
I whipped him with
That's
a
like
Whipped him with a fish.
that's been like being whipped with a porcupine.
And then gave him $100 so now go out and see if you can't stand up like a man. See, they told me all them kind of stuff, and I'm like you, I was scared to death.
I was spooked.
Equipped them with a fish.
They came
Must have
here.
been a catfish with
and they
that big
came
old
here.
prawns on it.
When they came here, they said, we was with Don Robic, we got our contract back. Of course, I was sort of wanting to see the contract, but I didn't want to embarrass Clarence and them by doubting their integrity, you know, and I'm saying, boy, I wish I could see that contract, make sure that they got that deal, because I don't want to die. It's because I'm renting the studio out in the Cotton Society. But anyhow, Calvin came with him.
Calvin who?
Scott.
Calvin
that
Scott.
was it was Clarence and Calvin. It was a duet. You know, this song.
Yeah, we had a duet.
Back then, duets were big. You know.
Oh, real.
Big. Everybody was a duet. You know, you lost that loving feeling and all that stuff.
Calvin must have been a high singer then.
High, very
He was a high singer,
He
yeah.
could sing.
I mean, he could reach notes that I ain't dreamed
Oh
of.
no, no, he could.
And
rattle shingles on his
he could play.
studio.
He could play.
Yeah, he could play.
The
He was talented.
only thing about him, when you bring him to now, he could come out on this stage out here and work his behind off.
Yeah.
He was loose. But if you bring him in a studio, somehow he wanted to get operatic. You know, you couldn't get him to loosen up.
Got into that round mouth stuff, didn't he?
Yeah, and I would tell him when you wasn't around, I said, man, you got to loosen up. I said, do like we do on stage, man. Come on, I said, this is our only opportunity we're going to have.
That fear put some vibrato in his voice.
No,
You just
no. That's when he came here and he was telling me that. You know, I was saying that fear of Don Roby's put that operator voice. Put that operator in his voice.
But he was one of those guys, he could really, really sing. But it was hard to get it out of him when you get into a studio. Y'all don't know, you didn't know how hard I was out there telling him, come on, man. I'm telling him, we got the opportunity for somebody to hear us. Now you better get this right. I told him one day, I said, if you don't get this right, they ain't gonna know what's happened to you.
When
When do we get back
I don't
home?
know what's happening.
anyhow, when they came, he said, they started doing this stuff. And of course, I started looking for material after we put our thing together. And one day, Clarence called me and said, "Well, I won't tell this story, but when they was in the studio today, one of my lines that Calvin always would say that I never forgot was, 'Don't make me laugh no more.'"
That's what it is. That's him.
Don't make me laugh no more. He'd tell that to Clarence. They'd get tickled. We'd laugh.
And
They'd laugh.
I was doing things to him.
We got a demo with him saying that on the thread the needle.
I was doing these things to him so that trying to loosen him up to what we could do what I knew we could do. Because you've been in the club and all these things, and you know what you can do.
Oh yeah.
And then you get in the studio and
And you got earphones on, all this stuff.
yeah.
It's really.
But I ain't had no problem.
No.
Just give me the microphone. I'm listening. You gonna
Back up. Let me do it.
I was hollering so loud. It was awful.
I got to tell you some story. What I'd always try to do was cut records with Clarence at the top of his range. And most of the time it'd be about 1/2 a step above the top of his range. So I'd say, "Clarence, I don't know if you can hit that note." He said, "Hold it, wait just a minute. Let me work. I think I can get it."
Yeah.
And it was almost like he'd back up the back of the studio and take a run and go up to the mic and go, "Ah!" and I'd punch him in.
Listen,
It was so funny.
I had it in my mind that, listen, I got a chance to make a record, and whatever needs to be done is going to get done.
That's how I felt. Desperation set in. I said to Etta one time, she was doing Clarence's song. Clarence wrote Tell Mama, you know.
Right.
And we had a record on him called Tell Daddy first.
Right.
And I don't know, it wound up being the B-side, or nobody wasn't quite as excited about it or something. I don't remember what it was, but they came out with that. Anyhow, one of the other things. But see, I had her here. And I loved Etta. She was a sweetie, but she was rough as a cop. Now you're talking about curse.
Talk like a sailor.
Oh man, nothing. The sailor would not. I mean, she could curse you till a fly wouldn't light on you. I mean, that's how it worked. And she was pregnant, and she had her boyfriend with her, and he had been in the penitentiary for killing the man.
Oh my goodness.
So he got out on parole, or got out somehow, and he was about 20 years younger than she was. She was, at the time, I want to think about 37, 8. He was about 17 or 18. And so he came here with her, and when I picked her up at the airport, she had 4 or 5 fur coats down to her ankle length. And this is August I'm talking about. July and August. She had 2 or 3 trunks. She had 3 or 4 poodles. And it took us, I think, a van or something, 2 or 3, a load or 2 to get all of her stuff down here. And of course, I was telling Leonard Chess came and stayed at the hotel, not with her, but stayed here and brought, he had 3 or 4 cronies because he told me earlier, he said, I'm going to give you Ed a change for it. And he said, you know, he'd always told me, said, you know, he always fooling around with Jerry and them cutting all them records. He ought to do something for me. I said, well, give me something. You know, you know, what do you want me to do? So he told me about that. But anyhow, he came down, and I don't know if he came partly because they sat and drank and talked and told stories, and wouldn't meet him and eat dinner and that kind of thing. But he said, I'll tell you something, I built my company around that. She signed with him when she was 14 and said, you know, she's very special to me. And said, I'm going to tell you something, she can sing. He said, when you think she's singing as good as she can sing, if you get on her and ride her a little, there's no end. I've never heard her. When each cut was better than the last one. He said, she can rattle the shingles on this building. And so I was amazed. Here's the owner of the company, had all this success, Chuck Berry, all these people, that he was here almost like to make sure everything was going okay. Or that she was being taken care of, whatever. Anyhow, he
insurance.
It's that's right. I'm here to protect my girl. And so we was cutting Clarence's tomb, and she was pregnant, and I had several people on the sessions from Memphis, some writers. George might have been here, but some of the other writers of the Klan, and this guy, and we had, I'm trying to think of the piano player's name we used to use. I don't know if I've used him in you class. His dad was a big disc jockey and had several big hit records himself in Memphis. WVIA.
Oh, you're talking about that Thomas part that played keyboard?
Yes.
Okay.
Marcel Thomas.
Yeah,
Marcel
Marvell.
Marvell.
Marvell, that was his name.
Yeah, his daddy was a big